All right. Good morning. Good morning, guys. It is Friday, January 8th, 2020. And this morning, we're going to talk some perspective on the riots at the U.S. Capitol. And what a crazy week it has been for our country. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what my perspective is on it. And hopefully, you guys can chime in the comments and talk about what your perspective is. Let's get started.
It is ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up.
All right, what's happening, guys? Good morning to you and happy Friday. As I was thinking about what to talk about this morning, there was a lot of options to talk about, and I was speaking with somebody else last night, and they were talking about just the craziness that's been going on in our country. And I thought that it would be a great topic for us to talk about and shed some perspective on, and really, try to help some people see what is going on, see through the noise and see through the craziness that all of us are experiencing on some level or another in our country by hearing this stuff, reading it on social media, hearing about it on the news. And I wanted to talk about the riots that happened and the people that are breaking in that broke into the U.S. Capitol this week. And we're going to talk about that this morning. But first, I want to say good morning to some folks. What's happening? Ryan Austin, Tammy Clark, Carla, good morning to you. Randy, Mr. Calloway, good morning. Lewis, Jared, Lynn, Doug, good morning to you guys. So I want to start this conversation about these riots and the people that, good morning to you, Cindy, the people that breached the Capitol, right? That entered the Capitol. And what a crazy scene, right? When you watch that video, it's almost unbelievable, right? It's almost an unbelievable thing to watch some of the things that are transpiring in our country. But I want to say this, this isn't the first time that we've seen something that was jaw-dropping in 2020. This is the first thing that we've seen in 2021. But in recent history, we've seen a lot of this. And there's a quote that comes to mind that when I watch this stuff and I watch the news and I watch the outrage of people from a side that so recently turned a blind eye to almost the same thing happening, what I will say is this. The quote that comes to mind is this: that which you don't condemn, you condone. And so when you accept violence in any fashion as a resolution to something you don't like, if you accept people breaking the law because it's supposedly in the name of something that you agree with, everyone loses. And that doesn't stop at that point. It doesn't stop when you allow violence, you allow looting and riots and the things that happened earlier this year. That which you don't condemn, you condone. And so when we see people entering the U.S. Capitol, you have to say to yourself, isn't that the next sensible thing that we assumed would happen? Maybe nobody thought it would be the U.S. Capitol. But without a doubt, when you allow and you don't condemn the things that have happened in the recent past, of lawlessness, of things that are going on that are just unsafe, that are bad for our country, that cause complete unrest amongst the people of our country, everyone loses. Nobody wins. We win when we talk to each other, when we communicate, when we embrace the conflict that exists and we sit down at a table and we figure things out. Because since the beginning of time, people have disagreed on things, right? And since the beginning of our country, people have disagreed on things. And history proves that most of the time, we're always able to work those things out through conversation, through sitting down and having a discussion with another person, whether you disagree with them or not, whether you think one way about this person or another. The critical thing that we all have to learn how to do in this country is to embrace conflict, to sit down and have a conversation, and to try and understand how the other person feels. And so I want you guys to think about this. When you look at the leaders in our country, also known as politicians, do you see people in those positions that are reasonable, that are willing to sit down and have a conversation with each other, that are willing to embrace a different thought other than the one that they stand for, that they're willing to listen? Not listen to respond, but listen to genuinely understand. Because I have many different positions on a lot of different things in our country. I have sat down with people that I disagree with the general basis of the topic that we would talk about. And by the end of that conversation, I have a much better understanding of exactly what's going on. So that's number one. Number two is winning and losing must be done with grace. And it doesn't matter which side of this coin you are on. And there are very good friends of mine that are Trump supporters that believe that the election was stolen. There are friends of mine that are extremely supportive of Joe Biden. Here's the reality, guys, is that there is a system in place to address these issues. And when the issues are not solved through the normal course of action in our country, they have to be accepted, right? Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. And here's the example that I will use. And I get the passion that everybody has. But the bottom line is this: there are people that commit murder in our country that walk every day because of a lack of evidence, because of a lack of the ability to prove what it is that happened. That is how our country is run. That is called the law of the land. If you cannot prove something, then you lost. That's just how it works. Doesn't matter if we like that or we don't. It doesn't matter what we believe. It doesn't matter what we see with our own eyes. It matters what can be provable, what can be heard in court. If there's corruption in our government, it doesn't matter. This lawlessness, these riots that have happened at the U.S. Capitol, all the things that are triggering in our country are a result of a lack of communication and a lack of people losing and winning with grace. And I get it. It's a very charged topic on both sides. And I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm not trying to point the finger at anybody. But if you look at what's going on in our country, who is to blame for all of this? This is the question of the year, right? Who is to blame? And so I thought about that this morning before I jumped on here to have this conversation with you guys. And here's what I think. I think that anyone who has not directly condoned and just speaks their mind about the actions that happen when you see buildings being burned, when you see people breaching the U.S. Capitol, when you see people looting stores, if you cannot look at that and say that is not okay, then you are partially to blame. Because there is nothing in this world that allows someone to go and break the law and make that okay. I get it. I get all the pain that's attached to the things that this conversation is attached to. And anybody that knows me knows that I want everybody to be happy, to be cared about. I want equality. I want everyone to feel loved and heard and cared about. But using violence to correct the problem will never get us anywhere. So those people who have not directly condoned the concept of using violence to be heard in the past, They would be partially to blame. Anyone who has insinuated in any way that people should use violence in order to be heard or use intimidation in order to be heard, those people would be partially to blame. And again, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just telling you what I believe. You can connect the dots as to who those people are for yourself. The people that don't take a stand and do whatever it takes to make people realize that this isn't the answer, those people are also partially to blame. And so when you think about this in our country, when you think about the things that have transpired in the last year, it's a scary time, right? It's a time of, it's something different than we've ever experienced, right? And everybody feels that. The one thing that I know is that everything will always be okay. That no matter what, we have love, we have God, we have values that guide us, right? And even if those values get a little off course for some people, eventually history has showed us that everything will be okay. So I know that in my own heart. But here's another thing that I wrote down this morning. The answer is love. The answer is to stop the media hysteria around everything from both sides of our politics, because some of this is the blame of one side of the media and some of this is to blame to the other side of the media. Because leading up to January 6th, there was a lot of discussion around what was going to happen and getting people emotionally charged and talking about how all these things were going to change and be different. And there was going to be justice. And the reality is that from my perspective, at least, and you guys can disagree, I'm happy to have that conversation with you. The facts just didn't support that. The facts didn't support it. And so when we report on a large scale, our media reports things that do not seem to line up with the facts in any way, shape, or form. And I've seen this, by the way, all over the board in the media. The media doesn't understand exactly how dangerous it is. The answer is to stop that. The answer is love. The answer is to place values in God back in the proper place in the front of everyone's lives in our country. And I get there's people out there that don't believe in God, and that's fine. That is everybody's choice in this country. But I'm going to tell you that I believe that the place that this country has gotten off course, that's where it starts. It starts with not having those values, not having that connection with your Creator, not having the peace in your heart that you get from feeling the love of God, from feeling the love of having value-based people around you. One of the greatest blessings in my life is the people that I find myself surrounded by, and the values and the care that those people have for other people, me being one of them, right? When you exist around people that have a significant amount of love and care for each other, this stuff doesn't happen. This stuff starts with people not feeling heard. Martin Luther King said that riots are the voice of the unheard. So I would ask you guys to think about this. That, friends, goes for both sides. It goes for people that believe one way and people that believe another, for both sides of the aisle. And so for those people, and I'm going to end on this because I think it's important for everybody to understand the hypocrisy that's in our country. You cannot condone violence on one side of things and then condemn it when it doesn't, when the reason for the violence and the reason for the riots doesn't line up with what you agree with. You cannot ever condone people breaking the law. And that's how these things start. I get it. Everyone wants to be heard. I hope that everyone is heard. I hope that our country can get to a place where people actually feel heard, where these politicians get broken down to a point that they actually get it. Maybe their hard outer shells get cracked and they actually feel the emotion and the pain that these people have that are out there doing these things. Because that's where it starts and ends. It starts and ends with people actually being heard. People don't go do things that are pretty extreme. We don't lose lives. Police officer involved in this died overnight last night, as I understand. So that's 5 people who have passed away from this. Countless arrests. Craziness, right? It starts with people not feeling heard. And that is the responsibility of the people who we elect into office. People not feeling heard. And it's because those people can't embrace the conflict and they can't come to a conclusion that is reasonable because they dig their heels into their party's positions and refuse to listen to the people that actually put them in that place with the expectation that they would listen. So I want you to think about that, guys, and I want you to spend today caring about people more than you ever have. This stuff comes from people not feeling cared for, not feeling heard. We can change that. We have the ability to change that. As human beings, we have the ability to love each other. We have the ability to look people in the eye and tell people that somebody cares about them. And that somebody could be you. And so the more that we do that, the more that we reach out a hand, the more that we say, hey, I see you, I hear you, the faster the world becomes a better place. One person at a time. One person helps one person, helps one person. We can do this, guys. There's a lot more people that believe in the middle than believe on the extremes of both sides of this. We can do this. As a country, we can do this. So I challenge all of you guys to do your part today. Be a great American. Be what our forefathers expected of us, which is to listen and understand, to love each other, to listen, and to just be a great American and to protect our freedom and to protect everything that this country stands for. I hope you guys have an awesome Friday. I hope this message made you think. I hope it gave you some perspective on everything that's going on in our country. And I hope that it helps you see what it takes to solve the problem, because it doesn't take violence. It doesn't take violence. It takes love to solve the problem. It takes God to solve the problem. That's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Wishing you guys an amazing Friday. If you guys ever want to have a conversation about any of this stuff, I'm always available. So please reach out, shoot me a message. I'm happy to jump on a phone call or a Zoom call and chop it up with you guys and give you more of my feelings. You know, I got a limited amount of time here to talk about it, but man, I just believe in everybody. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I believe that we all have greatness within us. I know we all have love. We all have peace in our hearts. And I encourage you all to spread that today. Go out there, make somebody's day, hold the door, look people in the eye, smile, and just have a great Friday. I will see you guys again Monday morning, same place, same time, right here on Morning Perspective. Love you guys.